His GP said he was fine. Every marker, green, in range. Nothing to worry about. 6 weeks later, I found cardiovascular risk in the top 15%, silent insulin resistance heading toward diabetes, and a brain health marker accelerating cognitive decline. His GP had never tested for any of them. He is not unusual. In 35 years at Harley Street, he is the norm. And today I am going to show you exactly what is being missed. Your annual blood test checks roughly 15 markers. In my practice, I test over 80. The gap between those two numbers is where cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, and cognitive decline hide silently for a decade or more. These are the 5 tests I consider non-negotiable for anyone over 40 who takes their health as seriously as they take their business. None of them are experimental. All of them are evidence-based, and most GPs are not running them. The single most important cardiovascular marker that most people have never heard of, apolipoprotein B. Your GP tests total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. If those come back within range, you get the all clear. But LDL has a significant blind spot. It tells you the amount of cholesterol inside your particles, not how many particles are circulating. Here is an analogy that makes this immediately clear. If you were assessing congestion on the M25, LDL cholesterol tells you the total weight of cargo being transported. ApoB tells you how many lorries are actually on the road. You could have low cargo weight spread across hundreds of small dense vehicles, and that is far worse congestion. In your arteries, congestion means plaque. Every atherogenic particle carries exactly one ApoB molecule. So ApoB gives you a direct count of the particles that cause heart disease, not an estimate, a count. A 2021 analysis in JAMA Cardiology, over 150,000 participants, found ApoB to be a significantly better predictor of cardiovascular events than LDL alone. In some populations, people with normal LDL but elevated ApoB had nearly double the risk. Standard practice calls below 130 acceptable. In my practice, I want below 80, ideally approaching 60, if we are being truly proactive. If you have a family history of heart disease, carry visceral fat, or you are over 45, this test may be more important than your LDL number. Now a question, has your GP ever tested your fasting insulin? If you said no, you are in the vast majority. Roughly 9 out of 10 of my new clients have never had this test. Your GP tests fasting glucose. That is standard. If it comes back at 5.2, you are told you are fine. But what that number conceals is that your body may be producing 3 or 4 times the normal amount of insulin to keep glucose in range. Your pancreas is working overtime, compensating, masking the problem. By the time glucose finally rises, insulin resistance may have been building for a decade. In business terms, fasting glucose is your quarterly revenue figure. It looks healthy. Fasting insulin is the cost of generating that revenue. If costs are spiraling to maintain the same output, you do not have a healthy business. You have a crisis that has not hit the P&L yet. A 2023 study in The Lancet tracked over 50,000 individuals and found elevated fasting insulin preceded a type 2 diabetes diagnosis by an average of 11 years. 11 years. Completely invisible on standard blood work. Optimal. Between 3 and 6 MIUL. Above 10, we need a serious conversation, regardless of what your glucose says. And the reason this is especially critical for executives, insulin resistance does not stay in its lane. It drives inflammation, disrupts sleep, impairs cognition, and accelerates biological aging across every system. It is not a diabetes risk factor. It is an everything risk factor. The third test changes how you think about heart disease entirely. High sensitivity, C-reactive protein, hsCRP, measures chronic, low-grade inflammation, not the kind that makes you feel ill, the kind that silently damages your vasculature, your brain, and your metabolic function over decades without a single symptom. Think of it as a slow leak in the foundation of a building. You do not notice it day to day. Everything looks sound from outside, but over 10 or 15 years, the structural integrity is gone, and by the time you notice, the damage is deep. The Jupiter trial demonstrated that individuals with elevated hsCRP but normal cholesterol still had significantly increased cardiovascular risk. Normal cholesterol. elevated inflammation, substantially higher risk of heart attack and stroke. Optimal, below 1 mg/L. Below 0.5 is excellent. Above 3.0 means something is driving systemic inflammation and it demands investigation. What pushes it up? Visceral fat, poor sleep, chronic stress, processed food, and for this audience specifically, overtraining. I see this constantly in executives who compensate for sedentary weekdays with punishing weekend exercise. The intention is admirable. The execution is inflammatory. Fourth, and this one surprises most of my clients when I explain it, DHEA sulfate is the most abundant steroid hormone in your body, precursor to both testosterone and estrogen. Roles spanning immune function, bone density, mood, cognitive sharpness, body composition. The critical detail, DHEA-S peaks in your mid-20s, then drops 2 to 3% every single year. By 50, you may have half what you had at 25. By 60, a third, and the rate of decline varies enormously. Two 50-year-olds can have radically different levels, and those levels track meaningfully with biological age, resilience, and mortality risk. Research in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found low DHEA-S independently predicted increased all-cause mortality in men over 50, even after adjusting for other risk factors. This is not cosmetic anti-aging. It is a window into your hormonal reserve, how much capacity your endocrine system retains for repair, recovery, and resilience. If it is declining faster than your chronological age would predict, something is accelerating your biological clock: stress, sleep deprivation, nutritional deficiency, or all three. And fifth, the one that concerns me most, and the one almost nobody is checking, homocysteine, an amino acid your body produces during protein metabolism. In healthy individuals, it is efficiently recycled using B vitamins, B12, B6, folate. When those pathways are impaired, homocysteine accumulates, and elevated homocysteine is directly toxic to blood vessel walls and to neurons. The cardiovascular risk is well documented, but the cognitive data is what I find most alarming. The Optima project at Oxford followed older adults over several years and found that elevated homocysteine correlated with significantly faster brain atrophy, measurable brain shrinkage. When they gave B vitamins to lower homocysteine, the rate of atrophy slowed by up to 53%. Below 10 micromoles per litre is adequate. Below 8 is what I target. Above 12 carries meaningful risk for both cardiovascular disease and cognitive decline, and it is frequently correctable with targeted supplementation. For executives whose competitive advantage depends on cognitive clarity and decision-making speed, this is the marker you cannot afford to overlook. Let me give you the complete picture. ApoB, below 80 millimolans DL, ideally approaching 60. Standard practice says below 130. I consider that far too generous. Fasting insulin, 3 to 6 μUL. Above 10 is a red flag, regardless of glucose. hsCRP below 1.0 mg/ml, below 0.5 is excellent. Above 3.0 demands investigation. DHEA-S, aim for the upper quartile of the age-appropriate reference range. Homocysteine below 10 micromoles per litre, below 8 is the target. You can order all 5 through private blood testing services. Medichecks forth others. No referral needed. But here is what matters most. Interpret them together, not individually. Elevated insulin alongside high hsCRP tells a completely different clinical story than elevated insulin alone. The pattern reveals more than any single number. That is where a physician who understands longevity medicine makes the difference. If this video has changed how you think about what your annual blood test is actually telling you, here is the single best next step you can take right now. I have built the Executive Longevity Scorecard for exactly this situation. It is a free assessment, takes 8 minutes, and it maps where you stand across the 6 pillars that predict long-term health and performance. You will get a personalized report showing your current trajectory, not just your current status. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you want this kind of evidence-based insight every week, the science that matters without the wellness noise, subscribe to this channel and to the Longevity Edge, my weekly newsletter. Links below. Deep dive every Tuesday. A A shorter, more personal take every Saturday. Next week, the morning protocol I have refined over 2 decades, less than 20 minutes, and it impacts energy, hormones, and cognitive clarity for the entire day. To your longevity.